Hi! Welcome to this part of my review featuring Nightcrawlers, a splatterpunk role-playing game. If you haven't seen the other parts of my review featuring this horror role-playing game based on the Black Hack, please check out the playlist in the description below. This time we are going to continue with the brutes, starting with the mortal. Most mortals are unaware of the underground. Those that aren't are often monster hunters, government agents, or people who just have a few kindred friends. Either way, you're in the minority. When it comes to your stats, you have decent hit points, but you don't deal too much damage. Unlike other brutes, you don't start with a special edge, you start with humanity. You don't have a power die. You instead start with 1 point of humanity. You gain additional humanity every level. You can think of humanity as a sort of resource that you can employ when you are in the danger of dying, when you want to reroll a die, when you want to go first in combat and such situations. When it comes to special features, you have things such as highly skilled. You have a second background concerning your relation to kindred. Examples include monster hunter, occult researcher, weirdo outcast, etc. You also have well connected. You begin with a level 2 contact in addition to your other contacts. When it comes to drawbacks, you have only human. Mortals are not supernatural beings. They are not immune to poison, disease, or age. When it comes to your origins, perhaps you are an average Joe. Or maybe you are a nobody. When it comes to trinkets, perhaps you start with a battle jacket, or with a self-published zine. Then you have the Revenant. Revenants are intelligent animated corpses, and they look pretty fucked up. Most just wandered out of their graves one day, but they are determined to make the most of their second chance at living. When it comes to your stats, you have a lot of hit points, and you do pretty good damage. When it comes to edges, you start with the necropathy edge. This allows you to communicate with corpses in a limited way, and a power die of D4. Your die is restored after draining life force via touch. When it comes to special features, you have things such as unstoppable. Once per hour, whilst in combat, you may regain 1 hit die of hit points. When it comes to drawbacks, you have things such as fire vulnerability. You take an extra die of damage from fire. When it comes to your origins, maybe you were rejected from the afterlife, or perhaps your rest was disturbed. When it comes to trinkets, perhaps you start with a makeup bag, or maybe a walking cane. Then we have the vampire. Vampires were bitten by a sire, died and returned as a vamp. Vampires are ambush predators to the extreme, stalking their prey from the shadows before ripping out their throats. When it comes to stats, you have decent hit points. The damage that you deal is not very good. But when it comes to edges, you start with the mesmerize edge. This allows you to compel others into carrying out simple commands. And you have a power die of D4. Your die is restored after drinking fresh blood. When it comes to special features, you have things such as creature of the night. You roll with advantage when climbing, hearing sounds, performing silently, and performing delicate tasks. When it comes to drawbacks, you have things such as sunlight allergy. You take damage from exposure to direct sunlight. Concerning your origins, perhaps you are an ancient lord, or maybe you turned this century. When it comes to trinkets, perhaps you are carrying a blood vial from your sire, or maybe you are wearing cool sunglasses. Then we have the Warlock. Warlocks, or witches for the femmes, are humans who have made pacts with dark powers or gained forbidden knowledge in exchange for the ability to perform magic, making them more than human. When it comes to your stats, you have very few hit points, and your damage is not that good. But you have magic. You start with a realm of your choice and a power die of D4. We will talk about magic in a future part of this review. Your die is restored after performing a ritual, ceremony, or sacrifice. When it comes to special features, you have things such as familiar. You have an animal with human intelligence bound to you by magic. You can communicate with them telepathically, and can see through their eyes. When it comes to drawbacks, you have things such as the paths. You use either black or white magic. White magic can't directly harm anyone, and black magic can't directly heal anyone. Concerning your origins, maybe you are an internet researcher, or maybe you were taught by your family. When it comes to trinkets, maybe you start with treats for a familiar, or various cheap jewelry. Then you have the werewolf. No matter how they were made, werewolves can shift between human and wolf form when they please. Werewolves are brimming with rage, always ready to rip and tear whatever they can lunge at. You have a lot of hit points, and you deal good damage. When it comes to edges, you start with the shapeshift wolf edge, which allows you to turn into a werewolf, and a power die of D4. Your die is restored after eating fresh meat. When it comes to special features, you have things such as Brutal. After reducing an enemy to 0 hit points with a melee attack, you may make an immediate free melee attack against a close enemy. When it comes to drawbacks, you have things such as Silver Allergy. You take an extra die of damage from silver when it's used as a weapon, or 1d6 of damage if it is touched. Then you have origins such as Born a Wolf, or perhaps Cursed as Punishment. You have trinkets such as Dog Tags, or Here Comes. And this concludes this part of the review. In the next part, we are going to talk about equipment and gameplay. I really like these brutes. They all feel unique, but for example in the case of the Mortal, I think that's a very challenging brute, considering the special edges and powers of the other brutes. You really have to rely on your contact, on your skills, and definitely interacting with other humans because you don't look as monstrous as the other characters. When it comes to the Revenant, this is a very durable character, a perfect candidate for a sort of tank role within the group, as long as there is no fire involved. When it comes to the Vampire, this character, this brute, feels a bit more like a rogue sort of character. You are not exactly a combat machine, but if you attack the enemy from behind, if you carry out stealth operations, then you will have the advantage, not to mention your capacity to hypnotize others, so that could serve in some social situations. When it comes to the Warlock, you are the spellcaster of the group, you are fragile, but because of your magical powers, you can carry out some very unique things concerning your magical effects. And when it comes to the Werewolf, you are a combat machine. You really want to be in the thick of it when melee starts. Be careful with those silver weapons though. Thank you for watching this part of the review. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that have been supporting the channel by sending drive-thru RPG gift certificates. If anyone else wants to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you, and see you later.